Glasgow Chamber of Commerce's chief executive has highlighted his belief that rapid population growth in the city centre is achievable, on the back of a major increase in the employment base and demand for accommodation from under 35s. Stuart Patrick declared, "There are a few milestones that are always worth repeating. We were told the population of Glasgow and the west of Scotland was in inevitable decline. Well, it isn't. It is back into growth, so start planning the infrastructure for future growth. We were told it was going to be very tough to diversify the Glasgow economy away from heavy engineering." Asked who had talked about the inevitable decline, Mr. Patrick replied, "It would have been before devolution, but I'd be inclined to say the message was coming more from the civil service than it was from the politicians. I'm not sure the colour of any particular administration was the issue. It was a decades-long ingrained assumption about the relative role Glasgow should expect to play in the future of Scotland." In terms of the makeup of the economy, Mr. Patrick highlighted Glasgow's success in building its presence in the software and broader technology sector, highlighting the number of specialists working for the likes of JP Morgan Chase and Morgan Stanley in this field in the city. He highlighted Glasgow's place as one of the world's leading events and festival cities, flagging its progress in the tourism sector. Commenting on a recent draft strategy report by Glasgow City Council, citing an aim of doubling the city centre population from about 20,000 to around 40,000 over the next 15 years, Mr. Patrick said, "We have an opportunity to realise this largely because of employment growth of the core city." He highlighted a major expansion by Barclays in Glasgow, JP Morgan's move to larger offices, consolidation of operations in the city centre by Scottish Power and Scotch whisky distiller Edrington, and expansion by accountancy firm KPMG. Mr. Patrick added, "That has been gradually establishing the demand rate for the sort of developments the likes of Moda Living and Get Living have been proposing, but we have been uncertain of demand." He flagged in particular growing demand among under 35s for housing in the city centre. Mr. Patrick noted that increasing the city centre population could also reduce the need for transport, against the backdrop of the sharpening focus on tackling climate change. He said, "There is a coalition of interests between the city's growth strategy and climate change." Mr. Patrick added, "We have moved Glasgow on from being a city with a declining population. We now have a growing population. There is every reason to think that could start growing faster." He observed that both the city centre and broader Glasgow population had been growing. Mr. Patrick flagged growth. For more on this story, visit the news article link.